Klopp wanting a break after Liverpool means nobody is safe. So if Klopp, say, went to Barcelona as Xavi's replacement, it means that an out-of-work manager simply fills that Barcelona job, which kills any ripple effects due to Barca not needing to take another club's manager. With Klopp being pretty insistent on taking a break, it means that any realistic candidate for the Barca job is already in a job and they'd have to poach that person. But who's next for Liverpool first? Now, we did a video on the channel and I think most people feel like Alonso is the obvious choice. To you, does he feel like the only choice?
There are kind of like some rules around this, aren't there? Around what makes a good managerial replacement. And I think the reason he's number one in the odds is because he ticks the most boxes as to what you would want. But again, there is no but. That is just true, isn't it? He ticks those boxes because maybe there isn't a dearth of candidates that we actually think are eligible. So maybe don't be sucked into this idea that he's the top of a very strong field. I just think he looks the strongest of a field of people that we don't really know what's going to be best to replace Klopp. It gets quite meta. And the more you talk about it as the day goes on, the more you talk yourself in and then out of different choices. I was very compelled by the video that you made on Xabi Alonso. It's a really good watch. But
it put me off him a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you can do the same with culture and all those kind of things. So you can talk yourself in and out of any of these options, and especially with FSG and the way that they promote or employ. So yes, he's the strongest to us, I think, in the public. But is he only strongest because he seems like the most obvious candidate?
Yeah. So I was chatting to someone about this and they were saying that I think and I don't know if this is just a little bit romantic to Liverpool, which is a very romantic club. But they were saying that it's kind of, as much as it's about a tactical fit, which actually normally, like from my own experience, going and getting a manager who's loves the club and he's a former legend, but doesn't really play the football that's going to work for the players, you forget that he's a legend pretty quickly. And it all, turns a bit sour. And you actually need to go back and you have to have a sort of clear thread in how you want to play. So kind of coming back to it, when it comes to Liverpool and the next guy, especially after Klopp, what percentage of importance do you put on, is it percentage? I don't know, but what importance do you put on the man and what importance do you put on the philosophy and those other elements?
For me, the question of replacing Klopp is an interesting question because can you replace Klopp? And I don't think you can. I think that's
that you can make up the numbers in the aggregate. You've not seen Moneyball?
I haven't seen Moneyball.
Right, you've seen Moneypenny.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry.
Kai got it. For the record, Kai got it.
I'm really sorry.
So when I point yeah, right. Sorry.
Yeah. I just think it's one of those things where you're sort of referring to it there, like, again, from an outside perspective. It feels like there's a couple of clubs, Liverpool, maybe Madrid, to an extent, maybe Arsenal, United, whatever, where there's a kind of an idea of what a manager is, but really only the kind of the biggest clubs. In the end, winning is the point, right? But I do think at Liverpool they do look for the word I had was like father. It was like almost like a father figure or a cultural leader who goes beyond, gets the key to the city, goes beyond.
Messiah isn't 100% too far. No, it really isn't too far.
Yeah.
But
I do feels like it's too far.
But we
should be too far, but I get it.
If every manager, and I think there's it depends how meta you want to get, really, but like every manager that's come through and has been prolific at Liverpool has had that.
Yeah,
or any club,
quality.
Or any club, right?
Any
Fergie,
club,
Pep, like those guys, they do become them because you're the Messiah, because you seem to have this power over winning football games, right?
Sure, but I think there's also this this other property to them which seems slightly intangible, or you can't really quantify it in the same way. Shankly's not fully quantifiable, but his football is. Same with Paisley. Paisley was a reluctant oracle or messiah, whatever you want to call him, and the same with Kenny. Kenny was very reluctant to take the Liverpool job. He was,
but with all those guys, what I think is really important here is, I think I don't know if I said this on something or not, and I'm sort of slightly reluctant to, because I felt like Klopp, more than any other manager that you've ever had, I can't figure out if he's just wonderful in terms of you as a fan and what you would want a manager to be, or if it's a Liverpool thing. But in terms of what you would want, you want someone fatherly, powerful, big, like passionate, smart, plays front foot football. He's more that than Dalglish, timid, right? Benitez to a point, timid.
Yeah.
I used all these words with the most as respectful as possible because I know Dalglish is number one.
I think he's more withdrawn in a sense, and
But in terms of what you see as a manager,
Sure.
right? Like he's not Pep, he's not Fergie, he's not that kind of guy.
I get the argument.
Neither's
you're making.
Rafa, neither's Paisley.
So I guess the question I would kind of back to you then is, do we, not that Liverpool are like the kingmakers here, but very early during the Rafa period, there was something called the Rafa Toller, which they would carry through the streets, which was a framed photo of Rafa.
Right.
And it would be like everyone would sort of march towards the games. Not everyone, but there'll be a group of fans that would march towards the games, hoisting this photo of Rafa and being like, this is the Rafalution, these kind of things. So how much of it is, Rafa didn't ask for that. There's no PR team that backed that with Rafa. Liverpool kind of did that.
So that's what I think. I wonder if actually we're all kind of making it up, and what it really comes down to is if you're winning or not.
If you win, yeah.
Success does allow you to do that to an extent.
Yeah.
I think that's the basis. But then I do think I would describe it like a paternal relationship that maybe Liverpool fans have with their manager. And for like, let's say for Madrid, it's more like a workman that you've hired. And like if he does the job, you give him a great review, fantastic, thank you very much. But you're not going to go out for a meal with him, sort of thing. And I think some of the stuff I've seen from Liverpool fans like, "I'll look after them for you, Jurgen." Like it's that kind of conversation. I do. In the end, those things are set by people who are different, and you happen to have with Shankly, Paisley, and now Klopp. Would this be the sort of the three?
Kenny's up there as well.
Kenny's
probably played the best football we've ever played.
But that's the kind of the culture of Liverpool that has occurred. I guess the question then becomes for the Liverpool execs: do we want to look for another messianic type figure?
That's a great question.
So it's a really good question.
Or do we want to move on?
Well, and that's where Alonso seems like the right kind of reset. So he ticks those boxes as well, which is, for instance, he came in, obviously, at Leverkusen. It wasn't going particularly well. He built his own kind of football. Obviously, they'd probably be a bit more predisposed to buy into that kind of football. But it seems like a fairly malleable team. He's not the guy, for instance, the other suggestions of Postecoglou, just big personalities, I think, that they're on the list. Some people were like Conte, and I was a bit like, well, that's obviously never going to happen. De Zerbi, but I don't think De Zerbi is that same size of personality. But the point is, he's more of a withdrawn kind of follow me, and I'm setting the example, both tactically and in terms of demeanour.
Alonso,
than Klopp is this. And at times Klopp has been reduced just to this as a motivator. So maybe he's the right kind of reset, because what you do not want is the next manager. And I say this reluctantly. I've got a lot of respect for what David Moyes has done at West Ham and at Everton, but it felt very much like, well, go on then, be Fergie.
Yeah.
And what you don't want is, well, go on then, do more of the Klopp stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask. Is that it's such a
Right.
weird?
No, no, literally, you've just proven that no one else can do that. Yeah,
You literally have shown us.
Audio listeners.
I watched a video of Klopp's favourite favourite celebrations, and it is always like, it's like someone's called him for his dinner, and he just goes, boom, like legs it down the way. It's absolutely amazing.
A meme-like quality to Klopp as well. I just think
He's done well to actually avoid. See, again,
Has he avoided it?
I think he has. Like, in terms of how memeable he is. If he's him and shit, there's so many more memes.
He can only be that because of the success, can't he?
Yeah, but that's kind of my point about the sort of who's the right guy, who's the right personality. It doesn't really matter as long as they're great. Like, and I think I agree with you in terms of Alonso, because I think I've done it myself. I think Ange I like in terms of like the fatherly aspect. I think he could deal with the pressure. The fans will love him because he's a Liverpool fan, things like that. De Zerbi, unfairly probably from my own point of view, I think he's too erratic. And I presume that in the cauldron of Liverpool and the spotlight of that, I feel like, and again, it's probably not fair for me to say that, but the problem with all of this is the narrative that will make its way regardless of who it is. And so there is, I don't know if you have that feeling, but there is a slight feeling that you kind of want to just throw someone not under
like
the
a
bus,
buffer manager,
also a stopgap, a stopgap. And so I wonder,
Jordan
and I
Henderson,
didn't think
I see
about
what you're
this.
saying.
I thought Gerrard, get him in.
Gerrard, he's busy. He's very busy. Yeah,
trying to save his job.
Yeah.
So I've thought Alonso, and I agree. I agree with Alonso. I think if you go and get Alonso, then you have to accept that the first year is not redundant, but not important. It's how he gets on in a 4-year period, because you almost need to kind of get over the breakup to sort of let the sort of water settle for him to go and make his splash.
It's a really interesting point, because I was watching the Norwich game, which again seems, I think this is something that we don't quite note enough about Klopp. Klopp plays into the theatric elements. He's not Mourinho kind of psychotic level of playing into mentality, but he understands the theatre of it all. And I think that's something that often like managers almost get blamed for doing.
Yeah.
But actually he uses it really smartly.
Yeah, he does. The PR of it's quite good. You know the thing where he's like, before a warm-up, he'll sort of stand and watch them, and he said, I just want to see if they're doing anything. Bollocks. Yeah. Absolute bollocks.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Also, he does it a lot more at Anfield, because he knows that camera, like BT love that camera. I think that's why they do the 12:30s, because BT just TNT come in and do that whole, we'll rotate the camera around you. Can you just go and stand over there for us, mate? But what I'm saying is there's this staged element to a lot of what Klopp does, and that's why it also buys in very well to the Liverpool way. Yep. Liverpool are a very performative city. You know, it's a very religious city in the first place. There's a lot of Catholicism. There was a huge Protestant element there. There used to be a huge Jewish population, and all of this builds into a lot. There's some beautiful cathedrals as well, and I think a lot of people miss this about Liverpool, because most people don't bother to go to Liverpool in their life and meet some Scousers. You know, a lot of people just sort of meme them and go, you know, like I was at the Fulham game the other day, I was at the Arsenal game the other day, and I was sat in the Arsenal section. I'm not saying Arsenal fans are inherently against Northerners, but the chants were, sign on, and they're like, go and get a job, you losers. And that's the meme, you losers. The guy was 56.
Go and get a job, you losers.
Yeah, the guy was 56. But the point is, like, they, for that reason, the analysis gets reduced down, and the performative element of what Klopp does has very much been bought into at Liverpool. And there is, Anfield felt different. I wasn't at the Norwich game, but I was watching the feed. And I don't know, it's the first time I've watched You'll Never Walk Alone in a while and felt like it was being sung to him rather than with him. Wow. Even now I get like goosebumps thinking about that. He felt separate from the club. It was a mixture of... I'll get destroyed in the comments. It was a mixture of the first time saying to Klopp, "We love you, we're going to miss you, and you'll miss this."
Yeah.
But it was also, "Hey, we're us, and we need to be strong as a group as well to get through this period," which I know sounds incredibly dramatic, but you get my point. Like, there is this theatre and the drama of it.
But if you don't want to show empathy, you're not going to. But but I think you can you have to understand, what everyone's had that where they've had that manager or that player, and you do have this moment where you go, oh, it's not going to last forever. Mm-hmm. Oh, no.
But at least we had the countdown with Klopp, where we knew when the contract was going to end. To an extent, City fans have the same with Pep Guardiola, where it's like, well, he signed on again, so we've got another couple of years of this. There is a reassuring nature to that, and being able to go, okay, so it's not the goodbye tour yet, but in a year, we're just going to leave a bottle of cologne on the side and go, we love you, just unwrap that. Like, there's that kind of feeling about it, It's, you don't know you're going to miss your flatmates until you've moved out of that flat and you're going, oh, it's Friday night and we're not doing the pizza thing. You don't know you're going to miss these idiosyncrasies that come with every manager until they're no longer there. And that, I think, is something that it's going to be a periodic thing where every couple of weeks you go, everyone goes, this is his last fifth round game. This is his last semi-final. This might be his last trip to Wembley. His last Thursday game in the Europa League. There is this big countdown feeling that I think we're not quite acknowledging yet, which will also ramp up towards the end of the season and change how we feel about the new manager. These guys.
Look, this is going to sound really hyperbolic, but there's a truth to it, right? Like, the meaning of life is death, and so there's a terminal. It's terminal,
Absolutely.
isn't it? It's going to be over then, and so that it will be so outrageous for such a charged football club.
I don't want to go to the last day.
It's going to be so charged.
I don't want to go to that last game.
It's going to be crazy.
Because my dad said, "Oh, do you think you can get tickets?" And I was like, "I don't want to go and cry in a stadium with everyone else on that last day."
Yeah,
because I've been in the stadium when Carragher retired.
I was there at that game.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's QPR.
And he took like a long post and hit the bar. I was right behind it. And
I
remember there was just this feeling on the day of like, wow, like this is, you're watching the changing the guard or whatever you want to call it. It felt that way. And this feels similar. I know we've kind of gotten off a lot of that
that's cool.
But Alonso Alonso at least will come in and they'll be like, okay, like, you can see the goal and you sort of go, all right, let's just calm down.
That's a good
It was the reason I was talking about singing to him on the sidelines is it's the same when you're in the game. And, when I was at the Arsenal game, we were right up in the gods. But every now and again, you just go, what's Klopp doing? Just to kind of get a read on the way that we should read the game. We've been conditioned, this with Arteta and this with Southgate. Like, we
Ian Holloway was
Holloway was the this. You look for a read of what the manager's doing and you react to that. And over the years, you learn what to applaud, what to go, ooh, what to actually be nervous about. And so much, we've been so reassured over the years because it's like, well, line's high. And originally when he played that hard line, everyone was like, what are we doing? And now it's like, line's high. Canate will catch up. Don't worry about it. Alisson's massive. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I do. I get it.
That'll change.
With Alonso, like you say, in terms of the sort of flip-flopping of it, do you feel like Alonso is the obvious one, by the way?
I think there's a reason these names emerge. And, no one's got all football fans together and gone, right, we're all going to agree on this name. There is a reason these names come out. And I think...
Do you think the timing of the announcement has something to do with Alonso specifically?
Yeah, so I wanted to come to that. Did you watch the full half-hour thing?
Yeah.
So that was fascinating to me because it was really, really well put together. I felt Klopp was really, and I think you said as well, really vulnerable, really honest and stuff, but there was two things he said. One was he was talking about his wife, and he said, I explained to her, and I said there was some, and he said, and there's some private things I won't share here, which I believe Klopp is out of energy. I do believe that, but I think the reasons why he's out of energy they have to be to do with looking at how much Arsenal's spending, looking at how much Tottenham are spending, looking at how much all these clubs are spending.
Really,
it must be, and look at and going.
A sort of stomach for the fight kind of thing.
Can I go and do that again with the net spend that I have? And I also think, and there's, rumours about Salah and, behind the scenes, all the stuff. And I'm sure all of it sort of comes in. But I think he also said something really interesting. And he said, I told them in November, and there's certain things until I make this public that they can't do. So that tells me, and I could be wrong, but my read on that is that they're basically saying, we want to approach some managers, but the moment we do that, Fabrizio Romano is going to tweet it into everyone's pockets, and so we can't, until you tell everyone, we can't do that. So I think they have a target in mind, and as I say at the beginning, I just don't think these names come out of nowhere. I think the question really is, and this may be for you, is Liverpool, and I put the city in that because I think that's part of it. Is Liverpool ready for the words process, rebuild, time, those sorts of things? Do you think they're actually ready for that?
I think Klopp has kind of afforded whoever's next the time to do that.
Yeah.
And to an extent, I feel like the constitution of the squad kind of affords you that as well.
Yeah.
Looking at it. I enjoyed what you said about Salah. I think there will be some questions over if the next manager would continue with him.
And I think an important question is, say Alonso goes, right? The one thing I'll say with Alonso, because there's so many other clubs we need to talk about it, if I was Alonso and someone who's quite specific on his career trajectory, there is an easier road to Liverpool. Now, we've all kind of like hinted at the idea that next season is a really tough year, even with the fact that it isn't Man United in the sense that there isn't a club that's kind of on the way. And yes, okay, maybe Salah is, he's getting older, and Van Dijk is getting older, but both of them are killing it right now. The rest of the squad is young and going into the sort of really good, strong years, and is actually moved away a little bit from what a Klopp team was, and they're playing slightly different because of it as well. But that next year is really hard, and Alonso is at the start of his journey. If he wins the league this year with Bayer Leverkusen, or even if he doesn't, Bayern Munich is the sensible place to go next, because you win. He goes there. He will win.
What if you get eaten up by Nagelsmann was meant to win. I think Alonso's a slightly more agreeable character on the surface of things.
And Alonso has the Liverpool link.
Yeah. He also has the Bayern link.
So say someone comes in. Let's move it along, right? So say De Zerbi goes to Liverpool. Actually, here's the question. Mm-hmm. If it's not Alonso, who do you want?
It's a difficult list of names after that, I think, when you start going through it.
It's awkward, right? I think it is a really awkward time if you don't get Alonso, which is why I think they will get Alonso. And again, I think there'll be an understanding, especially with the fan base there, is that whatever happens next year, a bit like Guardiola in his first year with Man City where they struggled and then look what happened, there will be an understanding that that's the same thing with Alonso. Same with Arteta, right, as well.
Pep Lin just seemed like one of those names, but he's leaving as well. So
I feel that feels like a bad idea.
I think it would have last season. And this
so
season,
low on gravitas, like in comparison to Klopp.
That's what we're kind of going to find out here. And what you want is an almost seamless handover as to how much Klopp was responsible for all of these different aspects. And obviously, I think he's a huge element of that. But
so who would you go for? If you've got to give me a name, who would you want next?
I had to say, from a Liverpool, again, outside looking in, I think you don't. The last thing they should do is try and create another messianic figure. I think a De Zerbi has enough to go in and be like, okay, I can fill those boots, but not enough to go and do it.
I agree.
Which is why I think he makes a lot of sense. And I think from Alonso's perspective, I go, mate, you're 42.
You look great.
You look great. Roy Hodgson's, what is he, 75?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? That's like 33 years of a career. Take your time, make the right move. Stay at Bayer Leverkusen, prove yourself, whatever. I think for Liverpool, Xabi Alonso makes a lot of sense going that way because look, you'll be a different style of manager, you play a markedly different style of football. But for Alonso, I think that's a bit of a poison chalice. So I don't have a name, but I think whoever it is has to fulfill that thing of a very different style of manager. I think you want someone who's much more of a meeker, someone who is immediately everyone goes, okay, this is different, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think anyone who comes in and goes, Klopp 2.0 as part of Liverpool 2.0 is going to fail.
You can't be that.
I think,
as you said, with Ferguson.
So, if it was me and you could literally, you can play God with this, I do not hate the idea of Alonso goes and takes that Bayern Munich job and does well, and again can sort of be in that job with that pressure because being Bayer Leverkusen manager is very different.
Is this leading where I think it's leading?
Southgate.
It's not.
No, it's not leading.
Probably not.
It's not leading to the person who would then vacate the Bayern Munich job.
No,
good.
No.
Okay,
not
just checking because that went so well at Dortmund. Yeah.
Right. No. I the guy before him, I would go for Nagelsmann. As a stopgap, he's not the same. He's not going to be that guy. You have a quiet word and go, please don't wear those shoes. Don't wear that jacket. Just calm that down a bit. Trousers that get to the end of your foot, things like that. But I think, he's a good man, not end of your ankle. But I think he's a good manager. He's finished after the Euros. He's not Klopp. He's gonna play sort of a pressing style of football, but it'll be attacking. It'll be fun. It'll be all those things. And if it doesn't work, you've still got a more mature Alonso.
I don't disagree with that. I think he's broadly he plays the right style of football. I think he's maybe slightly closer to messianic than Alonso is, just because of his sheer personality. A lot of these managers on this list seem like they seem to have come up against a personality or two in their career and annoyed a few people. So I can't really fault him on that because the other managers have kind of got the same strike against them.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing I think. With Nagelsmann, he's been... look, now, according to reports, Bayern Munich, the dressing room didn't really like him. Fine. But
what does that mean, though?
That happens quite often.
But what is that? I don't know what that means because the dressing room didn't like Sadio Mane and Mane was... I don't know if they did like him, but what I mean is he didn't fit in with the culture that was there. And when he arrived, they got him a birthday cake and they said, you're going to fit in really, really well here. And then 2 weeks later, it was like, you're not going to fit in really, really well here. So I don't know if that's more of a Munich thing.
What's weird and what's going to be great is that you've got these sort of huge names. There's the guys that have kind of been there and done it.
Yeah.
And then you've got this sort of on the up, have been at a solid club. Then you've got these guys who've not even really been at the big club yet. And so it's a massive leap for even say Arteta obviously linked with Barcelona. Obviously it's bollocks, but we'll talk about that. But say he's got a footing, let's say Arteta, right? Mm-hmm. Unai Emery's kind of had that footing and he's now got that footing again. You've got Thomas Frank, and then there's Thomas Frank, and then there's De Zerbi, who that rung below that. No one's sort of jumping in there for me, apart from Alonso. Yeah. But even Alonso's he's not. I don't think he's totally ready yet. And I think it's a waste of a great guy who can be the guy.
There is also
next year you can't do it.
There's, by the way, the argument that you can go one way, so you could go to Liverpool, you could go to Real Madrid and then go to Liverpool afterwards. But it's very difficult if you're a failed, or if you're a Liverpool manager that had to leave and then go up. Madrid would see it as up to Real Madrid.
Do you not see that as up?
I mean, I think every Liverpool fan wouldn't. I mean, because of the experience you get from the club, you wouldn't feel it's up. You'd feel it's across, and you'd feel that we're there in the same stride. I understand where Real Madrid are and what they are, but they're almost a different type of club, and they are on next rung up. But to Liverpool fans,
what about the other way? Like, is
Liverpool
the other
fans
way...
would take him if he left Madrid because he'd be like, "Come home, we'll care for you."
The problem with the other way, though, is who leaves Real Madrid with their stock higher, really?
No one. So, but we'd still take Alonso even if he'd been dumped out of Madrid,
right?
Because we would feel like, well, you've been chewed up and spat out. We won't do that to you, sort of thing. Even though, to an extent, Brendan Rodgers was kind of chewed up and spat out. Roy Hodgson wasn't. Roy Hodgson was absolutely fine. But you get my point. But also there's this need not to swing the other way and go towards the Brendan Rodgers level, because I think people they remember how that ended. And we sort of go, okay, well, does De Zerbi look more towards the Rodgers?
That's why I keep coming back to Nagelsmann, because I think the affiliation's not there in terms of being a Liverpool guy, but he's enough in terms of he's done. I feel like he's done something. And I think you need someone who's done something.
I think there might be a lot of shuffle at the top. You know, I'm looking at, we firstly, we never know when Pep's going to leave. We don't know that. I think that'll be a seismic thing. I think Newcastle might move on from Eddie Howe this summer. I think Unai might be poached by someone. I think, there's obviously international jobs coming up. There's going to be a lot of turmoil. I think from Liverpool's perspective, it might be worth going, we have a number of options. Let's see how it plays out. And personally, if I was them, I'd go get Alonso. I think that's the right pick. But I think if I'm Alonso, I'm saying, I've got a long career here. I don't need to go and do that. And I think then in that position, if I was Liverpool, I'd say, okay, a number of opportunities are going to come up this summer. Let's see what happens.
So say Alonso wins the league, goes to Liverpool. Bayern sack Tuchel. Bayern then hire whoever they want to. If that manager is currently within a job, then that team is going to need a manager. This ends up with filtering down until someone hires a manager currently without a job, and it ends with Tuchel going to Manchester United whilst Erik Ten Hag becomes the Netherlands manager.
I don't mind Eric. I don't mind either. Would you put Tuchel forward for Liverpool? Or?
I think he would want it.
He did win the Champions League at Chelsea.
He seems...
Is he a buffer manager?
People find him unlikable for whatever reason.
So hard when you're that character type, and I really don't know what it is.
There's big problems between him and the Bayern board already.
He seems, and he had that with Dortmund, didn't he have that with Chelsea?
What he might be is as you say, you couldn't sell this as this, but he might be a nice buffer manager to go. If we can't get the guy we want, and we know we can go and get Tuchel, that means maybe Trent, Van Dijk, Salah stay. And that's probably going to be another thing. And if you go and get a project manager, or you get someone who is a bit of a buffer because it's accepted that this is someone we didn't really want. I wonder what happens especially with the comments from Van Dijk.
Option 2, Alonso goes to Real Madrid. Girona win the league, which sees Real Madrid pull the plug on Ancelotti quicker in order to get Alonso. Liverpool then go after Emery. Stay with me. Emery leads Villa to European football this season, maybe even Champions League. This gives Aston Villa a lot of pulling power, and through their appointment of Emery in the first place shows that they're an ambitious board. So who's a manager who will always do well in Europe? Carlo Ancelotti? Dum-dum.
No,
or
I can see this. Just seeing what's next.
Jose Mourinho, Aston Villa.
Yes. I don't mind that.
You feel it?
I mean, I mind it because I think it leads to similar Roma-type outcomes.
That is such a... Is this the right phrase? Heel turn on the sort of class and manners of Emery. Do you know what I mean? Going from him to Mourinho, like the ultimate...
This is when you've simmed too far. In FIFA.
Ultimate Machiavellian guy, as opposed to the guy, just says good evening every single time.
Why would you do that if you're Aston Villa?
I don't think they would.
Also, would Emery not look at Aston Villa as a relatively pragmatic guy, knowing, he was at Sevilla for years, he probably got loads of offers while he was there, and go, I'm good. We're going to build.
Do you know what I could see? I don't see Ancelotti.
Ancelotti's a dream. You can see Tuchel.
Yeah.
A Villa.
Yeah. If he gets bombed out by Bayern Munich, wants to come back to the country, that's a good squad. That
what about
squad is a
Ancelotti
great
at
squad.
Liverpool?
I don't hate that. Is a shout.
Please, no.
That is a shout. Would he? Yeah, he probably wouldn't, would he? But
why not?
Everton, he's ex-Everton.
I think he's just signed.
Oh yeah, because he was so loyal to them in the time. Yeah. He's literally like, someone else offered me a job. Cheers. Well, you got a contract here.
It's like Nicky Barmby all over again.
You will deal with that.
Do you know what though? When we keep talking about buffer managers, Him or Hiddink. Jack Hiddink in there will do a job.
What are you on?
Oh, Rafa?
It's just such a difference and never return to where you've been
Okay.
is the answer to that. Can I just float one thing before we finish on Klopp?
Float away.
I have had these all have to be private conversations with a few people who are big Liverpool fans but write about Liverpool or YouTube about Liverpool, about the difficult post-Klopp era conversation that we might have at some point, where now is not the time to have the conversation, but on this pod it is. Has it always been as rosy as we're going to look back and think of it as? And is it therefore as difficult an appointment as we're making out it is? Because the rebuild has happened.
Do you mean from behind the
behind-
walls?
Yeah.
Or in terms of what we've seen
In
and
terms of what we've
the fan
witnessed.
connection with Klopp?
Well, so for instance, when I was making the Jordan Henderson documentary, which was an interesting experience, and obviously retrospectively, that's fascinating. But with that, there are a few people who sort of went, I just don't think Klopp does X, or I just don't think he does this or that. And I was sort of chasing that, trying to get a real answer out of it. And just most people just gave me the answer. I think there are a few awkward conversations. I don't want to taint his legacy. I'm not trying to do that. But I think there are a few awkward conversations we should have about Klopp. And at times the leeway that he was afforded because of the success that he took us, but also just because, like we ordered at the top, we wanted him to be, we anointed him as that. And it sort of bought him a bit of time, especially last season when even in the Times this weekend, I think it was Jonathan Northcroft said he was thinking of quitting.
Right. I think he says it himself in that interview. He says a few times, I've got too much responsibility. And hopefully that's one where, he's a very powerful person. So both like in his personality and his role there, and it's got more and more powerful, which is probably why he's burnt out as well, because it's a lot of it's a constant kind of moments where people are going, right, so we need to decide on this player, and everyone just goes and looks at Klopp, and Klopp's going, well, aren't you supposed to make the decision? So it might have been one where it's like it's a bit of both, where it's like he's become that guy because he's phenomenal,
especially after Edwards. And,
but he's also aware of it himself and has the humility to go, this needs to change maybe as well.
And no manager is perfect, and I think
the same will happen with Arteta, won't it?
Yeah, of course, and it
kind of is happening.
If he, of course, and we were talking about beginnings and endings in the other podcast, the future podcast. But I think there will always be a question. Even let's say who is the greatest club manager of all time in the greatest ever period of their life, Pep Guardiola. There was question marks in his last season. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? Some people were unhappy with the style of management. He frozen us a bit. There's always going to be question marks. So I don't know. I think, I just think with Klopp, I don't think there's a risk of overselling it. I think if you look at what he's done.
No, I'm not necessarily saying that. I just think sometimes narrative can sometimes take over because we have such a lack of other information from inside the club. Yeah. And so all of the pain and speculation can sometimes be fueled by just the assumption of X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And
it could be a release of pressure there.
To an extent. And also, FSG painted as incapable. Well, I think what we're going to see is a lot of the truth about all of the different parties, including Klopp,
possibly,
come out in the next year to 18 months.
Xavi in Barcelona. Xavi's failure means that Barcelona could go left field with their next manager. Xavi's failure at the club, despite being a club legend, means that Barcelona will very likely go in a different direction when it comes to their next manager, meaning the next manager could well be someone with no prior affiliation to the club at all. Obviously, there was a bit of talk about Arteta. And he's what I loved it when he goes, "This is fake." You probably do the impression better than I. Definitely. That this is fake news. And then he goes with nothing on his face. He goes, "I'm really upset."
Yeah.
I was like, "Huh? Like, are you upset or are you not upset?" I'm confused. But it looks like he's kind of not going. With that, what I found interesting was how the drop off of Barcelona. Like, there's no way. 8 years ago, or I don't know, like 4 years ago, maybe, that the Arsenal manager doesn't take that job. Because sometimes there's, and this is the thing that I have this argument with Flav sometimes with Ange, and Tottenham fans don't like it as well, is that they don't want to accept that they are obviously in a different world, but like, so QPR, when you have a good manager who does well, he goes because he has to go because you're not at the top of the food chain. And with Tottenham, they're sort of wanting to be that, and they may well be that, and he might stick around and it might all be fine. But what has been generally the rule with Tottenham is that they aren't at the top of the food chain. And so if he is good enough and his name's Luka Modric or Gareth Bale, he will go. But with Arsenal, I think, and Arteta, again, if we move this along a bit, he would have gone, wouldn't he? But he doesn't see Barcelona as a good option as we talk about this in Spotify Studios.
Apologies. I think two things here. I think firstly we underestimate. We were sort of referring to it earlier. We're working with scraps of information. Clubs and managers know that, like, you want to get the board right, you want to get the exec right, you want to be in the right situation. Arteta knows that there's, he's not just gone, oh, I'm just in love with Barcelona. He will be thinking, is that the right move? He has all of those things in mind. And I think sometimes we underrate that. Yeah, of course, Arteta will be thinking, is that the right move in terms of the exec structure? Am I going to be supported there? Am I going to have the time there? All these sorts of things. The funds.
No.
And
even then he goes, I'll take it. It's like, that's the way it works in Barcelona. I don't know what it is. They go, Xabi, to defer his wages. Yeah. What are you doing? Obviously, he already owns his house and stuff, and like whatever.
Yeah, it's fine. But
it's pretty mental that this club keep going, about that. Could we, we were thinking, because you really love us, could we not pay you that money we promised? It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, and I think we maybe overrate that emotional attachment because that's the information we have. But, Arteta will be aware of so much more than we are. I think also because there's, and we're part of it, everyone's constantly having conversations and refreshing and rethinking and looking at things from different angles, which I love. Is an amazing thing. We forget that these guys, I think generally there is a shift towards younger managers anyway. I would be surprised if the average age of a Premier League manager hasn't gone down.
Yeah, when Roy Hodgson goes, it'll drop.
It'll plummet down.
It's pointless almost.
Yeah.
But I think, But I think, these Arteta's what, 41, 42? He's got so much time. If he wants to be a Barcelona manager, he can do that.
Yeah.
And I just think if you took a little step back and didn't sort of I think anyway, the people who believe that, I think you're just caught up in the drama and the romance of it, which I completely understand. But if we just take a step back and go, right, so you think this guy who's got 30 years possibly of a career left is going to leave a job where he's probably going to be paid more, going to have more resources, going to be in the best league, going to be in a team where he's spent 4 years getting emotionally attached to all these players, all these outcomes, and he's just going to go, yeah, do you know what? And they're going to defer my wages. I don't mind.
And his ego, by the way. Who would, if you're Arteta, you're thinking, I've built this over the years. Every manager at the very top level has a massive ego. And I'm not saying it's like this out of control thing that, like an id which controls them. But it is this thing where it's like you have to have that force of nature within you. Klopp, Pep, Arteta, all these guys. Which is why when people talk about someone being weak, I'm like, you idiot. Like, that, and that's the point with Arteta, is Arteta's not going to want to leave and go, someone else pick that up, which is also what, like you said in your video, makes Klopp so remarkable with the letting go of that. But Arteta, this has got his fingerprints all over it.
And everything he's done is with essentially the promise that this is leading somewhere.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't lead somewhere, then that's a catastrophe for Arsenal. But why would he go? And I think we get caught up in the the weeds of the conversation without being able to look at I also want to pick up on what you said about the upset thing. These, I think sometimes we forget, and I think in the All or Nothing documentary, it sort of dawned on me that you get the media press conferencing, you get the conversation before. I think it's Mark Goldbridge at Arsenal who says, this is what you're going to be asked, this has happened, whatever. And he talks about, Arteta was talking about like meditation, taking time away from his phone. They are as much, he'll be getting texts in his WhatsApp messages saying, have you seen this, have you seen that, all that sort of stuff. He'll be across this. And, that was happening on Sunday. He had till the Monday mid-afternoon. There's going to be a strategy put in place. And I think it's quite a good strategy to say, essentially, almost emotionally go, you've really hurt me. You've really hurt me. Because I think if you're
to who?
Why is that good?
To those reporters in Spain. Because they rely on contacts.
Switch it back on them is what you're saying.
They rely on your investment, your relationship. And if you say that really upset me.
So this is when Justin Bieber gets doorstepped by the fans and he turns to me and goes, I'm just trying to have some me time at home. He turns back to the Barcelona reporters who are going, we want you here. We love you. We are Barcelona. You are Mikel Arteta. And he goes, I just want some me time at Arsenal right now.
But that's not the reference I would use, Laurence. But that is,
it works perfectly.
It works perfectly.
Yeah, thank me later.
But I think going, if you have a relationship with a reporter and they're writing stuff about you and you go, it's kind of fine. I'll give you, because it helps me or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
And then you go, you've really upset me. I think that's a way better way, and it's calculated.
I
It's a
think
way
you're the way you delivered that was miles better than the way he delivered it.
This is, by the way, an insight into your manipulative relationships that you have. You were 10 minutes late for dinner. You've upset me.
I just think it's he won't have said something so emotionally charged, even if it wasn't emotionally said, without a little bit of thinking, and then the gloves go back on. You go, okay,
yes,
we're not going to push that, and that's why I think it was.
No, I hear that.
Love that.
And also, like the top line is that Barcelona squad is not as good as the Arsenal squad. You've got less money, and it's precarious. It's a precarious situation. Why would you take it? Southgate in England. So this does feel like Southgate's last tournament.
It is.
Has to be, doesn't it? So if Newcastle sack Eddie Howe, does that line him up for the job? I think it's one where he's the best English manager right now. The other option, we've spoken about him a lot, Graham Potter. He's actually the slight favourite to be manager, obviously out of work at the moment as well. More Southgate-esque, I would imagine, in terms of kind of quite, I don't want to say yes man, but, Southgate's quite calm from that point of view. Eddie Howe's not too bad when it comes to that as well. Another name that's chucked in here, which someone else was talking to me about this the other day. If it's not Eddie Howe because he's still at Newcastle and Graham Potter is able to get a different job, Jose Mourinho is out of work.
That is true. That seems irrelevant
Would he
to
take
this
that
situation.
Would he want that job? Would he want the England
Of course
job?
he would.
I don't think
I
he
think
would.
he's gagging for that job.
Really?
Gagging for
Yeah,
it
of course
to come
he
back
is.
to England and get that adulation. Of course he is.
I just wonder if the adulation's still there at this point in his career.
But
I think
I would let him do. He could do any. He could take all my possessions if he wins as a World Cup. I don't mind.
Interesting.
I'm a bit Brexit with this. I don't. I think it's cheating.
No foreigners.
I think it's cheating.
What, having a foreign manager?
We're England.
But is that not part of England? We're very good at going around the world, and
Taking our
and I say this ironically, we're very good at going around the world and kind of just
things.
sort
of conquering.
Yeah, we can do that, but slightly less hot.
Yeah, I mean, well, but this isn't that, is it? This is getting something in to conquer
This is
for
way
you.
more serious.
Yeah.
I get your point. So you're saying Mourinho and anyone else is a cheat code, and it can only be a stable of English managers.
I think it's damning on your coaching and your grassroots setup if England can't find an English manager. That's a nonsense.
I think it is, but I think that's a separate issue from whether you should be allowed to have managers who are.
Yeah, I mean, as a broad point, I don't think you should be allowed to. Full stop. Because I think again, it's about opportunity. So the opportunity at every country should be that. Just like you don't have. I mean, you have people with dual nationality. Like I get that, but you have to be English to play for England. Ask Jack Grealish and Declan Rice.
What about
to be Irish to play for England?
What about some of the other people out there? I'm just looking through a list of the top 10 English managers in the world right now. There are a couple of names in there where you sort of he's budding. Will Still.
Carrick, I just thought of.
Carrick is another one who obviously masterminded the 1-0 and then
the old Middlesbrough
Ipswich.
connection
the
there as well.
subsequent result.
McKenna.
Yeah,
Lovely.
Right, Ipswich.
McKenna.
Kieran McKenna, yep.
I think that name is synonymous with success in England. Yeah,
Can't even get past Maidstone, can I?
no, good point. But then Michael Carrick, obviously Neil Warnock could be at a loose end come the end of the season. Maybe we'll give it to him for 10 weeks.
Go on, Sam.
yeah.
In you get. Have another go.
I want
Nigel
the best man
Pearson.
for the job, and I think if Pep's leaving, please, you could throw everything. Yes.
Oh, that's cheating. That feels like cheating.
I'm not saying we'll get him. I'm not.
He would never be England.
I would
couldn't
love
take
Pep though.
No, I'm
I
sure
would
you
love
can
it.
go. Right, let's get some answers then. Liverpool, who will be? We'll go round the table. Kai, it's going to be you first. Pressure on. Liverpool, who will be? Not. Is it who you want, or who you think it will be? Either, I don't care. Go on, just answer the question. Klopp. Who's going to be the next Liverpool manager?
Farioli.
Whoa! From nowhere.
Just because of the data side. So he's only scored 21 goals, but is second in League One. But they actually create about 3 or 4 big chances per game.
Okay.
So they should score more.
That's kind of to your
Nicest
point,
manager.
Loz. In terms of that
Maybe
data
more
side.
likely to go somewhere else. But yeah. Yeah.
Okay. For Liverpool.
I can only really say Xabi Alonso because the field doesn't seem all that crowded right now. I'm talking myself in and out of it on a daily basis. I think the sporting director that Liverpool get is going to be very instructive of where they then go. And I think the fact that they're prioritising the sporting director possibly shows, therefore, what kind of manager they will prioritise.
But you want Alonso.
Of course, I'd love Alonso. Xabi Alonso is one of my favourite Liverpool players, if not my favourite Liverpool player ever.
Okay. Al?
Alonso. If I was Alonso and advising him, I would say don't do it. But I think it will be Alonso.
Thank you, Harvey Elliott.
Ditto. I totally agree.
Really?
I think there's a smart move to Nagelsmann. I really do. Barcelona?
I think Michel, the Girona
Girona,
manager,
good shout.
because he's Spanish, but he's learnt Catalan and culturally fits Barcelona, especially with like the election side of everything. It pleases a lot of people who vote.
Yeah, a bit left field as well. Yeah, that's a good shout.
And also
Striker.
maybe left field enough that they can justify it by sort of going, well, you don't get it.
And he's not bigger than the club as well.
No.
Yeah, that's true. Al?
I think De Zerbi could basically go anywhere he wants, I think, really. I'm not saying every club would want him, but I think he thinks, I could go basically anywhere from this job. So I think he's probably going to wait for a Madrid, a City, or something like that. I think Barcelona will either promote from within or go for the bloke from Girona.
Okay. And last one, England. Southgate makes his way after being victorious at the Euros, beating Wales in the final. And
Come on, man. I say fuck me for.
got to the final. Got to the final. What are you moaning about?
Draws doesn't work that way.
Who will be the next England manager?
It's such a nebulous, such a weird question because it doesn't seem like a particularly strong field.
I think it'll be Potter.
Potter wouldn't upset me. I just think, how long did it take him to implement a style at Chelsea? And you look at that and go, you've got 2 weeks, mate. Off you pop.
Contact time is huge for him.
Contact time is massive for any international setup. And maybe he could change it, but he doesn't strike me as that kind of manager. Maybe he felt like he had more time at Chelsea.
I think,
Players
I think it's a similar fit. And I think, I'm looking out for my old mate here. There are so many views in this for Rory. And I want him to get those views.
From
He
Graham
can't
Potter.
do Southgate out anymore, so he needs something else. And Potter's perfect, because he failed at Chelsea. Potter out. Sorted.
So you're thinking from purely a PR perspective for Rory Jennings that you want to see Graham Potter out.
I just they're thinking about as well.
It leaves a gap in the catalogue during the international break, which we all know is very difficult to get views.
Very good point, yeah. This is going to be the next couple of years of the international break just being filled with... Is this guy going to field this? The inverted what? The deep who? Like all these kind of things.
I'll go Potter.
I want Klopp or Guardiola.
Klopp.
James has just thrown up in his mouth a little bit.
Yeah, look.
It's cheating. It's cheating.
I
It's
look
cheating.
at the next generation of England players, and I think if you're a manager like that who maybe feels like they've done what they want to in the game, possibly I don't know if they do or don't, but feels like they've done what they want to in the game, what's the next step? Who are the team that you look at in international football and say, maybe there's something there? And I think they've been here for such a long time, been such a massive part of the Premier League and the fabric of English football, I think it would be a good cultural fit, and I think they'd be respected. And I think if that is announced, there's a massive buzz around England.
Very smart. They're adopted Englishmen. This is
Yeah.
brilliant.
As long
They
as he
are.
gets the passport, get the 5 years, you get the passport.
I think Klopp's been in. How long has he been in Liverpool? Since 2015.
8.5 years, almost 9 years.
He's got the key to the city. For me,
Scout's not English.
he's German.
Yeah.
Like he's the most German person I've ever
German,
seen.
not English.
Jurgen Klopp, German. No, I just think I think he will feel an affiliation, and has done so much for English football that I would love that to happen.
I don't think Jurgen Klopp looks at England at all, especially given his relationship to the press, and goes, I owe these men something.
I don't think he owes it, but I think he would feel excited by the opportunity. I think.
I feel like he's more excited by the opportunity of managing Germany, and so that's the only reason that I would say he's not England manager, is because I
don't think he'll do it. I want him.
Oh, right, okay, fair enough. Yeah. Well,
I
in
quite
that
like
case,
Carrick.
I want Johan Cruyff.
Back. Okay, Kai, do you want to chuck something?
Yeah, I'd like
I like Carrick actually. Thinking
if
about
Carrick
it
was a 21s manager, I
Yeah,
could
that'd be
see
nice.
him going straight in. But if he's at Middlesbrough,
There's not a
low.
I'm aiming clearly English. That's what I'm doing.
Does Carsley count as English because he played?
He's got the Ireland job. He's taking the Ireland job.
I missed
See, so the guy's not been well, so he's not aware.
Been ill.
Rogue shout for Lampard or Gerrard?
No.
I don't hate Lampard. I like him.
Manager.
As a person, I like him. As a bloke, I like him. I really like Lampard.
That's really rogue, though, isn't it? Now,
I wouldn't hate Lampard.
at one point, if we'd suggested that, I think a lot of people at the time, maybe early taking the first Chelsea stint, go, yeah, I think you see it in the future at some point. Whereas
Him, Jody Morris, and Ashley Cole
Yeah.
on the bench.
Brazil, we're going to get Carlo Ancelotti. We're up against that. Let's get the best possible manager.
would you
We've got
not
golden
take
generation?
You're telling me you wouldn't take Carlo Ancelotti on the sideline?
Of course you
Got to be English, mate. It's just you have to be English. It's stupid. It's cheating.